Justin Amash has left the Republican Party, and I have it on good authority that he will be running for the LP presidential nomination. What's in the news with stories on kid punished for an airsoft gun, Hawaii supposedly decrims cannabis, sheriffs standing up for gun rights, Department of Defense child pornography, SEAL team member not punished for murder, and the IRS is after cryptocurrency. Finally, and yet another bad cop with stories on cop gets retirement pay for murder, cop rapes a 14-year-old, cop planting drugs multiple times, SWAT team pays $750,000 for a raid over an unpaid gas bill, and a former cop gets out of jail early after a murder rap. This episode is brought to you by Health Excellence Plus, a health share that has saved my family thousands of dollars and can save you money too. Also brought to you by ForkFest, the annual decentralized Libertarian camping event that happens right around PorcFest, with no tickets and no one in charge. Also brought to you by all of my dozens of supporters.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. From the state ranked as the nation's healthiest economy according to a study done by Ohio University, this is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Rebellion needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at The Lava Flow Pod. This is episode 136, Amash, LP's Shiny New Thing. And it's Tuesday, July 16th, 2019, when there have already been more than 480 people killed by police this year, and the United States debt clock shows us at more than $22,498,900,000,000 in debt. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. Justin Amash, the only Republican who has said publicly that he wants President Trump to face impeachment, celebrated the 4th of July in style after announcing that he's quit the GOP. Writing in the Washington Post, Amash made a thinly veiled attack on Trump in an emotional plea to Americans to reject the partisan loyalties and rhetoric that divide and dehumanize us. He went on to say that American politics is trapped in a partisan death spiral, and warned, if we continue to take America for granted, we will lose it. I actually agree with Amash on this one. The difference is that I want to lose America the way it is now, with a bloated, controlling federal government, instead of the loose association of states that it was meant to be. Amash's decision to quit the party comes after he joined Democratic calls for an impeachment inquiry after the publication of the Mueller report in April. Since then, he's had to deal with the scorn of his colleagues and has been publicly singled out as a lightweight by the president himself, who said Amash was a loser who sadly plays right into our opponent's hands. That sounds like a pretty glowing endorsement from President Trump to me. Trump welcomed the news of Amash's exit Thursday, calling him one of the dumbest and most disloyal men in Congress. He added, Amash knew he couldn't get the nomination to run again in the great state of Michigan, already being challenged for his seat, a total loser. Amash wrote, Today I am declaring my independence and leaving the Republican Party. No matter your circumstances, I'm asking you to join me in rejecting the partisan loyalties and rhetoric that divide and dehumanize us. I'm asking you to believe that we can do better than this two-party system and to work toward it. Amash's departure will fuel speculation that he's hoping to become the nation's leading anti-Trump conservative and to seek the Libertarian Party nomination for the 2020 presidential election. He's been evasive on the question before, telling CNN earlier this year that he can't rule out the move because he feels that someone has to shake up two-party politics. And look, this is some inside baseball, but I personally received information at PorcFest this year from someone who has contact with Amash and is in the know that Amash is seriously looking into the possibility and has discussed it with top Libertarian Party leaders. Now, I am not at liberty to name that source yet, but I will certainly let you guys know when I can. At this point, I think it is a near certainty that Amash will seek the LP presidential nomination and be yet another shiny thing for the delegates to vote for. If this happens, and it is very likely that he will get the nomination if he seeks it, this will make 4 presidential elections where the LP has jumped on the scraps of the Republican Party for their nominee. At this point, I would be willing to bet good money that this will happen again. It seems like Amash wants to be the next Ron Paul, bringing in thousands of people to the liberty movement. I've been saying for a while now that the liberty movement is definitely suffering from not having a well-known quantity waving the banner for libertarianism to bring masses of people to the movement as Ron Paul did. For his faults, Ron Paul did succeed in doing just that, much more than any other single person ever did. I'm one of them. Amash, for his faults, appears to think he can do the same. I'm not so sure, but I hope so. Not for the sake of the Libertarian Party by any means, but for the sake of the larger libertarian movement as a whole. Richard Winger, longtime libertarian and friend of mine, noted that Amash introduced legislation in March that would ease ballot access for minor parties. Winger said, "This tells me he has been interested in minor party problems for several months now." Amash's office did not respond to a request for comment, of course. This year, he has indicated that he may indeed run. In January, Amash told CNN, "I'd never rule anything out." In January, he sidestepped the question, saying the ideal presidential candidate wears Air Jordans, while he was wearing Air Jordans. For me, this is not, in any way, an endorsement for Amash as the LP presidential nominee. I will not be making an endorsement for that nomination this year, although I did in 2016. Frankly, I believe the best and only nomination for the LP next year would be Vermin Supreme. His satirical look at politics in general is exactly what the LP should be supporting. His no-holds-barred attacks on what politics really is, force, with his free pony for everyone and mandatory toothbrushing is exactly what the LP should be endorsing. If the LP is going to be in the business of promoting statists, as it has to be by its nature, it should be promoting the satire of Vermin Supreme. That, folks, is as close to an endorsement as you'll get out of me this year.
Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In Government Indoctrination Center's news, a Maryland 8th grader was suspended for 3 weeks and did not get to graduate with his class in June. This was his punishment for appearing in the background of a friend's video in which said friend held a disabled airsoft gun. The 8th grader also posed for a photo with the friend, who held him in a headlock while the fake gun was pointed at his head. The picture was shared with 13 other friends on Snapchat. On Monday, his dad, David Bernstein, a nonprofit director, wrote a piece about the incident for the Washington Post. He said he had asked the private Silver Spring school to reconsider the punishment. After all, his son did not threaten anyone with a gun. He did not own a gun. He did not say anything about wanting to kill students or take his own life or do anything violent at all. He was, his dad wrote, just being a knucklehead. But the school insisted the incident was very, very serious and therefore warranted suspension through the end of the year. Bernstein added that this was not the first time he was dismayed by the administration's take on things. Bernstein said, "I first realized something was amiss at the school when I received a call earlier in the year about another very serious incident. My son had told a friend that he observed a teacher texting while driving. He was then hauled into the principal's office and asked to apologize to the teacher, which he only did reluctantly. The teacher was very hurt," the principal stated, "and your son didn't seem to care. Confused about the crime, I asked the principal, what if my son was telling the truth? That's beside the point," she said. "He violated our community values by hurting the teacher's feelings." Now look, you don't have to be John Grisham to sense something is a little off here. On the one hand, a child is punished for reporting an actual danger, a texting driver. On the other hand, the same child is punished for participating in a video and photo that did not represent any actual danger. Clearly, the school is very worried about the feelings of its teachers and not so worried about reality. It's worried that the teacher accused of texting would feel hurt, and it's worried that students might feel anxiety if they heard about or saw the video or snap. It is clear that the bureaucracies in schools care far more for their teachers than they do the kids that are in their charge. Get your kids out of government indoctrination centers. In cannabis news, the state of Hawaii decriminalized cannabis, supposedly. Bill HB 1383 decriminalizes possession of a personal amount of cannabis and provides retroactive expungement for individuals with similar past possession offenses. The new law maintains a $130 fine, however. The looming penalty of jail time is no longer a threat for possession of up to 3 grams of cannabis, the most minuscule possession threshold in any decriminalization state. While simple possession is no longer considered a crime, it differs from legalization. Possession of more than 3 grams, or selling cannabis for non-medical reasons, is still considered criminal activity and therefore subject to arrest and potential prosecution. The measure also creates a task force to study other states' cannabis laws. Record expungement is not automatic, though, as it is in the state of Illinois. It potentially requires a written application process. Some legalization advocates think it is problematic that decriminalization keeps sales of adult-use marijuana illegal. Without the opportunity to purchase cannabis legally, the illicit market and dangers associated with it, such as organized crime, continue to flourish. Personally, I'm not quite sure why this is being called decriminalization. It is still illegal to possess, purchase, or grow, so this is not true decriminalization. If there is still a fine associated with possession, then there is still violence and legality involved. What happens if you don't pay the fine? Government goons will come to your house with guns and demand the money. If you resist, they will shoot you. As most of you know, I was laid off from my 9-to-5 director of IT job last summer. Among the many terrifying things about losing your job is losing your health benefits. Our family went about 6 months without any kind of health insurance, and the anxiety and worry that came along with that was not insignificant. But after spending dozens of hours researching our options and quickly rejecting the $2,000 a month price tag that came with the options available with traditional insurance, we found Health Excellence Plus, a health share that was a fraction of the cost, and we're glad we did. Only a few weeks after joining as members of this health share program, my wife was diagnosed with a common skin cancer that requires an expensive procedure to remove the cancer and another surgery to repair the damage done from the cancer removal. When this is all said and done, Health Excellence Plus will have saved our family thousands of dollars, and I'll bet they can save you money too. Health Excellence Plus is a health share that meets the requirements of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. A health share is a community of like-minded, health-focused members who have joined together to share each other's medical costs above an amount they can comfortably afford. A health share is not traditional health insurance. It is designed to be a catastrophic coverage for major items, like my wife's surgery. The cost of an average family insurance policy for a primary 45 years old with a $5,000 deductible is $1,450 per month. A Health Excellence Plus $500 initial insurable amount with a healthcare strategy is only $783. Get started saving money today at thelavaflow.com/health. That's thelavaflow.com/health. In gun control news, Washington State has raised its minimum age for purchasing a semi-automatic rifle to 21, along with other new rules governing gun ownership. The age restriction went into effect in January, with the other charges taking effect July 1st. But some in state law enforcement have vowed not to enforce the measure, arguing that it violates the Second Amendment. Under the new law, someone buying a semi-automatic rifle has to be at least 21 years of age, pass a stricter background check, take a safety training course, and complete a 10-day waiting period. The law does not impose a retroactive ban on people under 21 owning such guns, but it does increase the restrictions on where they can possess them. Washingtonians under 21 can only have a gun in their homes, in a fixed place of business, or on real property under their control. And people of all ages are supposed to comply with strict new storage requirements as well. A person who stores or leaves a firearm in a location where the person knows, or reasonably should know, that a prohibited person may gain access to the firearm is now guilty of community endangerment due to unsafe storage of a firearm if a prohibited person accesses the gun and uses it. This requirement has been met with heavy backlash, with critics pointing out the potentially dangerous consequences of making weapons more inaccessible in a life-threatening situation. Not to mention the fact that does this mean they're going to start charging people if their car gets stolen and choose to run somebody over? That's insanity. Sheriffs across the state have denounced this law, saying it is harmful to the people they are sworn to protect by making it harder for them to defend themselves. Some go further, declaring that they will not enforce it. Bob Songer, a sheriff in Clickitat County, says, "I understand there's an argument that a sheriff has to follow the rule of law, and I would say generally that's true, unless I feel as an elected sheriff I have the authority and right to protect the rights of the citizens of Clickitat County that I serve." The Spokesman Review reports that Stevens County Sheriff Brad Mankey and his deputies won't be issuing citations or making custodial arrests for most suspected violations, short of an obviously mentally ill person under 21 displaying a semi-automatic rifle in a dangerous manner. Mankey said, "When my 19-year-old daughter can't carry a .22 rifle off our property, but we can send her off to war, I don't agree with that at all." In February, Washington Attorney General Bob Ferguson stated that sheriffs who do not enforce the law will be held liable if a prohibited person attains a gun because of the lawman's inaction. Of course they will. I bet that won't hold up in court. Look, I'm pleased to see some cops stand up for our rights to keep and bear arms, but I bet these same cops won't stand up for our rights to travel and will pull you over for minor traffic violations. I bet they will also arrest your ass for having drugs, ignoring your right to do with your body as you choose. In Rules for Rulers news, Congress is weighing up a bipartisan bill to crack down on the sharing of child porn on Defense Department computers, after a watchdog group found the Pentagon's networks ranked among the top U.S. ISPs for sharing the vile content. Abigail Spanberger, Democrat from Virginia, said in a statement as she and co-sponsor Mark Meadows, Republican from North Carolina, introduced the End National Defense Network Abuse Act in the House. The notion that the Department of Defense's network and Pentagon-issued computers may be used to view, create, or circulate such horrific imaging is a shameful disgrace and one we must fight head-on. The Defense Criminals Investigative Services, the DCIS, will receive training in how to root out and successfully prosecute those using Defense Department equipment to trade and access child porn under the new legislation. The bill also integrates DCIS into a multi-jurisdictional task force with federal, state, and local law enforcement, social services, and child protection groups to help victims of child sexual exploitation, and to roll back the tide of filth engulfing Defense Department networks. Congress has known for at least a decade that child porn trading on Defense Department computers was a problem. Immigration and Customs Enforcement identified 5,200 people subscribed to websites that were known to contain child pornography during 2008's Project Flickr investigation, including hundreds of individuals affiliated with the Defense Department, some of whom even used their government email addresses and military post office boxes to register on the offending websites. Worryingly, dozens possessed some form of security clearance. While a handful of the offenders caught in Project Flickr received jail sentences, thousands more, up to 80% of those identified in the ICE report, did not, as combating child pornography was not one of DCIS's investigative priorities. This investigative blind spot leaves the Pentagon vulnerable to blackmail, bribery, and other threats should employees with high security clearances become compromised through their weakness for child porn or other illicit activities conducted over Defense Department computers. The Defense Department's network ranked 19th out of 2,891 internet service providers for peer-to-peer trading of child porn in 2018, according to the National Criminal Justice Training Center, suggesting the problem has only gotten worse in the 10 years since Project Flickr wrapped up. A Senate version of the End Network Abuse Act was introduced in May by Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska, and Brian Schatz, Democrat from Hawaii. While neither chamber of Congress has set aside dates to discuss the measure, sponsors plan to pass it both as individual bills and as amendments to other bills, according to The Hill. Now I'll be goddamned, and I will be surprised as hell if this bill ever sees the light of day. Our rulers will always, in the end, protect our other rulers. And you can take that to the bank. I had the awesome pleasure of joining liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians for the 3rd annual ForkFest in June in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire, and I had a blast. I've now been to all 3 ForkFests, and I don't plan on missing a single one. This year, the event at least tripled in size from last year, with tons more people there and several food vendors. ForkFest is a decentralized camping event where no one is in charge. This means there is no ticket cost to attend the event. This also means that you are free to create whatever experience or event you want or would like others to enjoy. You can connect with other ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum at the unofficial website forkfest.party. That's forkfest.party. Keep an eye out for the dates for next year's event, which will likely be in late June. I hope to see you at ForkFest next year. In more rules for our rulers news, a jury found decorated Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher not guilty of premeditated murder of an injured and captured ISIS fighter that he was accused of stabbing. He was, however, found guilty of taking a selfie with the corpse. Gallagher was accused of committing a series of war crimes during his stint in Iraq, including shooting up civilians and stabbing an injured teenage Islamic State, also known as ISIS fighter, with his knife in 2017. He was acquitted of all but one charge, which carries a maximum sentence of 4 months that he's already served in jail. The officer was found not guilty of 6 criminal counts, including murder, firing his weapon with an intent to endanger a human life, retaliating against his subordinates who reported his alleged abuse, as well as attempted murders of 3 civilians, including a young girl, and obstruction of justice. The only charge that he will be awaiting sentencing for is posing with a photo with a lifeless body of the teen. Until last month, the high-profile case was headed towards a guilty verdict, as evidence against Gallagher appeared to be overwhelming. He had shared photos of himself with the teen's corpse and bragged about getting the injured POW with his hunting knife and text messages with fellow servicemen. Former SEAL platoon members that claimed to have witnessed the killing told the court that they saw Gallagher knifing the captive, who was reportedly 15 years old. Gallagher was also accused of conducting a re-enlistment ceremony next to the remains and flying a drone over him. Before eventually reporting their commander in March 2018, Gallagher's platoon members said they had gone to great lengths to stop his alleged carnage of civilians, reportedly tampering with Gallagher's rifle so that he could not shoot them at will. So basically, a monster wearing the flag that rules over us can get away with disgusting crimes because he wears that flag. If you or I had done anything even remotely as disgusting as this, they would lock us up and throw away the key. Fuck this Navy SEAL in the neck with a hunting knife. In cryptocurrency news, the United States Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, is allegedly considering requiring tech giants to report on crypto activity by users, according to a presentation reportedly from an IRS presentation and provided by a Twitter user. According to the document shared, the IRS hopes to use grand jury subpoenas on firms such as Apple, Google, and Microsoft to check taxpayers' download history for crypto-related applications. Known as Crypto Tax Girl, Laura Walter, certified public accountant and crypto tax specialist, tweeted the presentation, which was allegedly for agents in the IRS's Criminal Investigation Division. Citing the document, Walter concluded that the tax authority is conducting exhaustive research into detection of criminal tax evasion cases involving cryptocurrencies. As such, the IRS is considering carrying out interviews, open source and social media searches, as well as electronic surveillance, the expert noted. Specifically, the 181-page document reads, "Grand jury subpoena should be considered for Apple, Google, and Microsoft for the subject's complete application download history. Each application's function should be explored to determine whether or not the application can transmit or otherwise allow transactions in Bitcoin." As Walter emphasized, the presentation envisions that IRS agents ensure that taxpayers are not notified about the obtained information regarding their use of cryptocurrencies to prevent detrimental knowledge of the investigation. According to the documents provided, the IRS is hoping to serve subpoenas to check data from accounts in banks and PayPal for connection with crypto transactions. Additionally, the tax authority is considering reviewing social media giants such as Facebook and Twitter to find and record publicly available cryptocurrency addresses. The government is threatened by cryptocurrencies, and they should be. For the first time since its inception, it is possible to live in this country off of a currency other than the Federal Reserve note. They are not only threatened by that, but they are also terrified. They know that anything that challenges their power over our money can mean their eventual downfall, and they will do whatever it takes to try and stop that. The good news is they can't stop cryptocurrencies.
Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode.
Or use Bitcoin.
Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content.
thelavaflow.com/support.
This is what happens when you call the cops. Say what? This is what happens when you call the cops. Come on. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot. This is what happens when you...
I haven't done this segment in a while because most weeks there are only 1 or 2 stories on bad cops. However, this week we have several, and I didn't want you to miss any of these. First, the cop who blew away a guy begging for his life in a hotel hallway for daring to try and pull his underwear up, while cops forced him to crawl towards them, was temporarily rehired by the city he worked for so that he could claim a disability pension and file for a medical retirement that will pay him more than $2,500 a month for the rest of his life. Former Mesa police officer Philip Mitchell Brailsford drew national attention and outrage in December of 2017 when a jury found him not guilty of second-degree murder in the fatal shooting of Daniel Shaver. Brailsford shot Shaver in a confrontation in a hotel hallway in 2016 after police were called there by somebody who had seen Shaver holding a pellet gun in his room. A jury might have decided not to convict Brailsford, but the Mesa Police Department fired him after the shooting for violations of department policy. That turned out not to be the end of Brailsford's career in Mesa. ABC 15 in Arizona reports that Brailsford appealed his termination and arranged for a special deal with the city to be rehired temporarily so that he could apply for a disability pension and retire for medical reasons. Now here's the kicker. The justification for Brailsford's medical disability and retirement is a claim that he has post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, from shooting and killing Shaver and the resulting prosecution. This medical condition qualifies him for a monthly pension check of $2,569.21 for the rest of his life, which the taxpayers of Mesa are on the hook for. Brailsford is currently 28 years old. Furthermore, the city of Mesa agreed to spend up to $3 million to help Brailsford defend himself and pay lawsuit settlements. Next up, a former Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department detective pleaded guilty to child molestation involving a teenager whose sexual assault case he was investigating. Neil David Kimball, 46, of Agora, pleaded guilty to a lewd act with a child and unlawful sexual intercourse, the Ventura County District Attorney's Office said. The former detective was initially charged with forcible rape against a minor 14 years or older while the victim was tied or bound, as well as witness intimidation by threat of force, the DA said. While working as a detective with the Special Victims Bureau for sex crimes in 2017, he met with a 15-year-old when she reported being a victim of sexual assault. While investigating that case, Kimball befriended the victim and sexually assaulted her, the DA's office said in a news release. Kimball's sentencing is scheduled for August 8, 2019 at a Ventura court. He's expected to be sentenced to 3 years in prison under the terms of a plea agreement. 3 fucking years for using his authority to tie up and rape a young girl who had already been raped before. The next bad cop, fired Jackson County Deputy Zach Wester, was arrested on racketeering and numerous other charges for allegedly planting meth and other street drugs on unsuspecting motorists before hauling them off to jail. He was arrested on 52 counts in all. Aside from the racketeering count, he was charged with a number of other felonies, including official misconduct, false imprisonment, fabricating evidence, and possession of a controlled substance. He was also charged with misdemeanor charges of perjury, possession of a controlled substance, and possession of drug paraphernalia. During the initial investigation, deputies searching his patrol car found 42 pieces of drug paraphernalia, 10 baggies of methamphetamine, and 5 baggies of marijuana, concealed in an unmarked and unsecured evidence bag in the trunk. The investigation also found Wester routinely pulled over citizens for alleged minor traffic infractions, planted drugs inside their vehicles, and arrested them on fabricated charges. It also found that Wester misused his body cameras, sometimes turning them off before drugs were located or turning it on just after they were found. The allegations prompted prosecutors in Marianna to review nearly 300 cases involving Wester. They ultimately dropped charges in nearly 120 of those cases. The next story involves the St. Louis County SWAT team. St. Louis County has agreed to pay $750,000 to settle a lawsuit filed by a woman whose dog was killed by police during a no-knock SWAT raid over an unpaid gas bill. I shit you not. According to the lawsuit, filed by one Angela Zorich, members of the St. Louis County Police Department's Tactical Response Unit executed a search warrant on Zorich's home in April 2014, following an anonymous tip that Zorich had had gas and electric service shut off at her house, the latter of which is a violation of the county's housing code. What the actual fuck? This is all it takes for the SWAT team to bust into your home, kill your dog, and terrorize your family? This is what a fucking police state looks like, folks. During the raid, police arrested Zorich and shot and killed the Zorich's dog, a 4-year-old pit bull named Kia. Police argued that Kia charged them after they entered the home, giving them no choice but to shoot it. Zorich's complaint said that Kia made no threatening movements and that officers shot her immediately upon entering the home. Zorich's lawsuit says that her infant grandson was in the house at the time of the raid. It also claims that an officer held a gun to her adult son Isaiah's head, threatening to put 3 in him if he spoke. And finally, this last story is just fucking disgusting. Norris Greenhouse Jr., who murdered an innocent child and gravely wounded the child's father on video, was quietly let out of jail well before he was supposed to be released. Norris Greenhouse Jr. reached a plea deal with the Louisiana Attorney General's office. For this cop's role in murdering 6-year-old Jeremiah Martis, an innocent young boy, and shooting his father, he only received a sentence of 7.5 years to begin with. At the time, this sentence was a kick in the teeth to those who watched him murder a child on video. However, last week, he was quietly released after serving just a fraction of this already insulting low sentence. Greenhouse, whose father is the assistant DA in Avoyas Parish, Louisiana, is obviously tapping into the special privilege of being so well connected. Greenhouse came under fire for being allowed to leave the county to take a Caribbean vacation to St. Thomas while waiting trial and out on bail, a privilege only well-connected children of government officials enjoy. Now here is where shit gets weird. Greenhouse, at the time of the November 2015 killing, was not even allowed to be a police officer. Greenhouse had reportedly been fired for having an inappropriate relationship with a 14-year-old child. He was also accused of attempting to get a 16-year-old girl to sext him by sending him nude photos of her breasts. With respect to Jeremy Martis, the child that was killed by the Greenhouse was reportedly obsessed with Christopher Few's girlfriend, Megan Dixon. Christopher Few is the man who was almost killed in his car when Jeremy Martis, his son, was killed by Greenhouse. Greenhouse was with an actual officer, Derek Strafford, during this murder. Strafford was convicted in March of 2017 following a jury trial and was given 40 years in prison. Infuriatingly enough, the person who seemed to have caused most of this conflict was Greenhouse, yet he was the one who got the more lenient sentence. It's very clear why, because he was politically connected. Many believe it's because his father is a member of the local district attorney's office and was somehow given a sweeter deal than Stafford. At any rate, Greenhouse was only required to serve a maximum sentence of 7.5 years, but was then let out well over 5 years early. When Few discovered Greenhouse had made more than a few unwanted sexual advances towards his girlfriend, Few reportedly told Greenhouse to stay away, as any man would do. Greenhouse may have taken the threat so literally that he attempted to carry out his assassination on Few in an effort to clear the way for him and Dixon to have a relationship, and instead, he killed a child. When the facts came out that there was no reason for the stop at all, the above scenario makes perfect sense. According to Greenhouse and Stafford, the officers decided to conduct a traffic stop that night because Few had an outstanding warrant. However, the clerk of court, the district attorney's office, Marksville Police Department, and city court noted that they did not have any warrants against him. The officers also claimed that Few had a weapon, but that was also a fucking lie. If the judicial system is so effective in the U.S., how is it the person with the most number of sins in this case is the one who gets out first? Stafford received 40 years for his trigger work that fateful evening, as he should have. But Greenhouse, who arguably bore most of the moral burden for the crimes, only served 21 months behind bars. Greenhouse wasn't even a cop anymore. He never should have been allowed in that police cruiser that evening to begin with. Fuck this guy in the neck with his disgraced badge. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my favorite researcher, Jessica, for her help with the show. For the show notes to this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on the show, go to thelavaflow.com/136. This week, I have one upgraded supporter and two new supporters of the show. Friend and fellow free coaster Brian S. upgraded his $1 per episode support to $2.50 per episode through Patreon. Brian, thank you so much. Also, Tyler C. of the Vermont Hip Hop Collective supported the show at a huge $5 per episode through Patreon. Awesome, man. Thank you. It was awesome hanging out with you at PorcFest for the last 2 years. And Washington State of Liberty began a $5 per episode support through Patreon as well. Dude, that rocks. Keep striking the root. So, thanks to all of my awesome supporters, including Brian, Tyler, and Washington, I am at $268 per episode, or 53.6% of the way towards my next goal of $500 per episode. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Remember, when I hit this next goal, I'm going to be upping the content that I bring you from half an hour per week to a full hour. I know you want more content from me, and I want to give it to you. So add your pledge today to help me bring you twice the lava flow that you're getting right now. So exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon, or monthly using Subscribestar, or by using cryptocurrencies through Bitbacker. I want to be able to bring you more content soon, so make sure to add your donation today to help make that happen. I don't have any new Apple Podcast reviews this week, but if you have a minute and you want to hear your review read right here on the show, please go to thelavaflow.com/Apple and leave me a rating and a review. All the cool kids are doing it. Thank you to everyone who's left me a rating and a review so far. You guys rock. To all of you who haven't, can you guys help me out and go leave a review for me? Go to thelavaflow.com/Apple to do that now. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.